Certified old standards.
Did you just come from Afghanistan? Wow, Pauline. Wow.
President, a dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate.
All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan. That was Pauline Hanson. Think of her as Australia's Nigel Farage. I'll talk more about her in a moment, but before that, I need to explain you a few things. I have always said that Australia is 5 to 7 years running behind its Western counterparts like the UK and the US. And because of that, Australia is sometimes shielded from social and cultural upheavals that we have seen in other Western countries like the UK and the US. Whatever happens in the UK and the US eventually ends up happening in Australia as well. For example, this introduction of multiculturalism. Multiculturalism, albeit on a smaller scale, did eventually come to Australia as well. However, Australia has not reached the point of total societal or cultural breakdown as we have witnessed in the UK. To some extent in the US as well, but since the US is so much bigger, that's why those upheavals are not as prominent as they are in the UK. So the same thing that we witnessed in the UK is now starting to happen in Australia as well, which is going to have a cultural impact on Australia. So that's why Pauline Hanson is acting the way she is acting. So looking at the UK and the US, we can actually predict what is going to happen in Australia as well. People in the UK didn't suddenly become racist. There are a series of events that have taken place in their culture, in their society, that has led them to the emergence of the new right-wing and left-wing politics. And that's exactly what is happening in Australia. We saw how third parties out of nowhere emerged and overtook their mainstream counterparts. For example, in the UK, Reform is the new conservative right-wing political party. It's the biggest one in Britain. A year ago, it was nowhere to be seen. Interestingly, the Greens have now become the representative of left-wing politics in the UK. Yes, Reform is the biggest political party in polls in the UK, and the Greens are the second biggest party. So what happened to the status quo political parties like Labour and the Tories? They're becoming obsolete now. It's the same phenomena we are seeing being replicated all across the Western world. For example, the AfD in Germany, Marine Le Pen's party in France. So I've been saying for a while that whatever happens in the Western world ends up happening in Australia. So how come we have not seen a third political force in Australia? That's where Pauline Hanson comes in, who is being tarnished by the usual suspects as racist, far-right bigot, etc.
Did you just come from Afghanistan? Wow, Pauline. Wow.
Senator Thorpe, this matter has been considered before. Dress is a matter for individual senators' conscience.
President, a dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate.
If this is about the dress code, she is disrespecting a faith. She is disrespecting the Muslims out there, Muslim Australians. It's absolutely unconstitutional.
Whatever our own beliefs may be, the sort of disrespect that you are engaging in now is not worthy of a member of the Australian Senate, and it should not be allowed to stand.
And there are ways that you can reflect and express yourself in this chamber without going to the extent that we have seen today.
I intend to ask Senator Hanson to remove herself from the chamber and remove the clothing and come back dressed appropriately, or risk suspension, and she certainly will not be heard if she doesn't remove herself from the chamber.
Right now, there is a cultural war taking place between Western values versus this alliance of the Islamists, Marxists, and globalists. It's the same pattern being repeated everywhere in every single Western country. So it was only a matter of time for it to pan out in Australia as well. Australian people are not suddenly becoming racist. In fact, I'll actually address that from my own personal journey. So I was born and raised in Pakistan. I moved to Australia at the age of 19 in 2003. Now, I understand I am more of an exception than a rule, but for me, Pakistan was not my country in a way. I couldn't culturally, morally, ethically relate to Pakistan. Not picking on Pakistan, I just couldn't. I just didn't like the dusty roads. I didn't like 12-hour-long blackouts. I didn't like the cultural aspect of it. I didn't like the traditional Islamist view towards women, towards infidels. I just didn't like any of that. So I wanted to get out of Pakistan, and I did. I wanted to go to the US, but that was the 9/11 world, so I didn't get the visa, but Australia took me in. I had heard a lot about Australia by that point, that it's the most racist country in the Western world. But when I came, I have said this many times before, I'm not just saying it now, I have said it many times before, that I have never been racially vilified in Australia. Not at my workplace, not in my uni, not in my neighborhood, not at my cricket place, never. It just has never happened. And I have a theory on that. It's because I don't walk around saying that I'm a proud Muslim, Allahu Akbar. I don't walk around saying that I'm a proud brown Pakistani man. I'm proud of my culture, because when you behave like that, then you are creating an avenue for someone else to say, if you are so proud of being a Pakistani, then what the fuck are you doing here? And let me say that no ordinary Westerner, no ordinary white person goes out of their way to say that either. They only say that when they feel that their way of life, when their culture is being challenged. Of course, when would you need to say that I'm a proud brown man, I'm a proud Pakistani? You would only say that in the context of speaking of other cultures, for example, Australian culture or British culture. But you're saying that in Australia, you're saying that in Britain. Of course, that's going to antagonize the locals. And that causes friction, and that causes these community tensions, which blow up into accusations of racism. So personally speaking, I was never racially vilified. I never experienced racism in Australia. Now, I understand that just because I haven't been murdered, then it doesn't mean murders don't happen. I understand that logic, but our personal lived experiences are very important experiences. Yes, I understand that if I go out, if I start acting like I'm a proud brown Muslim man, a proud brown Pakistani man, then of course people will react. Of course there will be friction. And of course I will feel that I'm being racially vilified. And to be fair, this is the main reason why a lot of these people think that they are being targeted for their race or their ethnicity. No, it's a cultural issue. And because multiculturalism was imposed on people, in my view, this was always inevitable. And this is why we have reached a critical juncture in the life of our societies. When the number of foreign cultures was small in a multicultural society, these frictions could be ignored. But now they can't be ignored, because the second and third generation children of foreign cultures have grown up. And they also have a sense of self. They also have a sense of identity. For example, I'm a Muslim. I'm a second, third generation British, Pakistani Muslim, and I ought to deserve a separate respect. And that's going to cause friction with the native Brits. And that's purely understandable. So one could argue that there is nothing wrong with that. Let Pakistanis and Muslims retain their ancestral identity. But I'm sorry to say, if your identity is causing a problem in the native society or in the native culture, then you have to go. So now that you understand this cultural shift, which is giving rise to these new political doctrines, i.e. the new right and the new left, Pauline Hanson represents that new right. Pauline Hanson is nothing new. Pauline Hanson has actually been in Australia regurgitating these views for a very long time, but now she has suddenly become more relevant than any other politician, and she will become more relevant. So Pauline Hanson is Alice Whittle of the AFD. She is Marine Le Pen. She is Nigel Farage. She represents this new phenomena, the new conservative right that is becoming extremely popular in almost every single Western country. That's why Pauline Hanson went into the Senate dressed in a burqa, trying to legislate a bill to ban the burqa. Now, what's wrong with that? Like everywhere else, she got attacked by everyone, by every mainstream political party, like the Australian Labor Party and the Australian Liberal Party, which is our Tories. So they're the mainstream political parties. I have bad news for you, because just like in the UK, Australian Labor and Australian Liberals, they are going to disappear very quickly. I think within the next 2 or 3 years, they'll become the third and fourth biggest parties of Australia, just like it happened in Britain. I don't like the Greens. The woman that I'm about to show you, she is hard left. She's far left. And she's a Muslim, just like Zara Sultana. There's this weird alliance between the Islamists and the Marxists and the globalists. They will become more relevant. That's the bad news. There's a new right and then there's a new left. And Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party is going to represent the new right, which is going to become Australia's probably the biggest party within the next couple of years. And then their opponents will be the Greens, just like in the UK. The Greens have become the second biggest party in Britain. So it's going to happen in Australia too. And the Greens represent the new hard globalist, Marxist / Islamist left. So Pauline Hanson went into the Senate dressed as a burqa. By the way, she did the same thing in 2017 as well. But at that point, there were no Muslim / Marxist / Islamist senators in the Senate back then. But now we have at least 2 Muslim and a borderline Islamist senator in the Senate. And by the way, they both hate all things Australian. They hate Australia, they hate Australian values, and by extension, they hate all things Western values, Western liberal secular democracies. They hate everything. And of course, they hate white people. I will qualify my statement by showing you clips. So let me first play you this video that is pissing off a lot of people in Australia and pretty much everywhere in the world, when Pauline Hanson walked into the Senate in a burqa. Have a look at this.
So straight away they denied me the right to ban the burqa. So I actually left the chamber, went up and I put the burqa on. And I thought, well, if you won't ban the burqa, then I'm going to wear it. Well, didn't that upset them? They didn't want me to wear the burqa in Parliament. They don't want to ban it, but they don't want me to wear it in Parliament. So what do they want? They're a bunch of hypocrites.
That's Pauline Hanson. So that's what she did. As you heard her, she's trying to legislate a bill where she's asking to ban the burqa, which, by the way, is not racist at all. There's so many left-wing Western governments that have banned the burqa. For example, France, Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, and now Portugal. And that's not it. Even some Muslim countries have banned the burqa, such as Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, Tajikistan, Chad. Are those Muslim countries Islamophobes or racist towards their own people? They keep trying the same tried and tested tactics, but they forget one very important detail, that the world has evolved past cancel culture. This is not the same world. You can't shut down people with accusations of racism or Islamophobia or bigotry. It just doesn't work anymore. Because they overuse these tactics, that's why it just doesn't work anymore. Let me show you how Pauline Hanson is doing on social media. So look at this clown. Another typical lefty, Tony Shepard, is saying, next election, let's boot her out. One way to look at the success of any social media post, just look at how many views you've had. So 12,000 views, 13,000 views, only 339 likes, and almost double the amount of responses, 634, which means people are responding to this pathetic meme. And actually, let me read you some of the comments. What I say? Thanks, Tony. I've just followed a lot of followers like me whom support Pauline and One Nation. Pauline is exploding, and I can guarantee you she will be sitting on the biggest political party of Australia within the next couple of years. Might be difficult as she's already eroding the Labor vote. Not only Labor vote, just like Reform did with the British Labor Party, but she is going to eat up the coalition's vote. Our coalition is our conservative side. It is made up of the Nationals and the Liberals. Nah, this one first, this is our politician. So it's not working. It's the same thing. They're not learning. This is very encouraging for all of us because we are also a little bit globalist in a way, aren't we? Like the Patriots of Britain, the Patriots of America, Canada, Australia, maybe New Zealand too. We're all standing together. We're all fighting against a common enemy, which is an alliance between these globalists, Marxists, and Islamists. this is a weird alliance formed to bring down Western countries. So let me show you how the usual suspects are responding to this. Let me warn you, the woman that you're about to see, I'm extremely embarrassed because I share my DNA with her. She's also Pakistani. I am extremely embarrassed of her. I'm actually embarrassed for myself because most Pakistanis are like her. I'm an exception. But she is repulsive. She is hideous. She's divisive. I seriously don't know how people can stand her. Have a listen.
President, a dress code might be a choice of the senators, but racism should not be the choice of the Senate.
Why is she shouting? Look at this. What the hell?
This is a racist senator displaying blatant racism and Islamophobia, President. And someone should pull her up on that.
Senator Faruqi.
And it is you in the chair. You should be pulling her up on that.
How do we let this happen? Look at her. Look at the way she's talking. As I said, she's hideous. Pauline Hanson is a legend. I love her. I love Pauline Hanson. There's more of her. Have a listen.
Moments ago, One Nation's Pauline Hanson walked into the Senate wearing a burqa. What happened today was nothing short of blatant racism and
That's not racism. Well done, Pauline.
Islamophobia.
Islamophobia is a bullshit word used by cowards for buffoons. I butchered Christopher Hitchens' quote, but you get the point.
And it's not the first time. The Senate has now been suspended after Senator Hanson refused to leave the chamber. It was almost 10 years ago since Senator Hanson pulled this pathetic stunt the first time.
Wonderful stunt.
Back then, there were no Muslim women in the Senate. Well, we are here now, and we're not letting this disgusting hate.
I hope Pauline Hanson does it again. Do it again. Do every day, Pauline.
Slide. Straight from rubbing shoulders with fascist billionaires and the far right in the US.
Shut up, yeah. So Pauline Hanson recently attended Trump's Halloween party at Mar-a-Lago, and that upset a lot of these clowns. So let me show you a little bit more of who this woman is. Apart from being absolutely hideous and divisive and repulsive, she is a true racist. They have actually normalized racism against white people. Just have a listen to how she explains white people.
Just wow. We must be living in a parallel universe here, honestly. You would have thought that many of the coalition MPs and senators and Labour MPs and senators, you would have thought that they would perhaps understand the meaning of burning down the house, given that many of you white people in here claim English as your first language.
Given that many of you white people claim English as your first language, like what the F? But see the patronization? See the tone? Like, what do you mean claim? Like, it is their first language. Clearly yours isn't. She's actually covering for a radical, far-left, woke, pro-Palestine politician, Lydia Thorpe. Look how disgustingly dishonest she is. She's basically saying that, no, she used it metaphorically. You white people who claim to have English as your first language should know this. Now, let me play that video to you, and you tell me, from all over the world, no matter where you are, because obviously you're familiar with the English language, you tell me whether that was metaphorical or not. Listen to this.
So we stand with you every day, and we will fight every day, and we will turn up every day. And if I have to burn down Parliament House to make a point, I am not there to make friends.
If I have to burn down Parliament House to make a point, she literally is making a point. This is not metaphorical. Remember how they attacked Donald Trump? We have to fight the January 6th insurrection speech, and how recently the BBC actually dishonestly stitched it up to make it sound like he was saying, let's go to the Capitol and we fight.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight.
These clips showing the edited and original versions of a Trump speech have caused a major crisis.
Look, she said it openly. She's a Green senator. And this is who she was protecting. She's actually very racist. Let me show you some of her past tweets or positions. Look at this. I spoke in the Senate about the growing threat of white supremacy and far-right extremism in the 9 investigation. So great to blah, blah, blah. There's a long way to go for proper representation of women and particularly women of color in politics. We are sick and tired of chipping away at this wall of white privilege and patriarchy. It's time to bulldoze the wall down. If Australia was so patriarchal and had white privilege, then what the hell are you doing in Parliament? How did you get there? How? All lives matter is the catch cry of white supremacists and fascists. The acting PM knows exactly who is he appealing to. Show me white fragility. It's not just her. Her son is actually 10 times worse than her. Let me show you some of his tweets. This is her son, Usman Faruqi. Mediocre white people, they should be in the bin, but instead they own everything and are every fucking way. This is Zoran Mamdani. The white people are getting effed. Yes, it's happening. He was saying that in 2016, 2017. Australians are a deeply conservative, insular and fearful people with a collective delusion that they are laid back and forward thinking. How can people put up with this nonsense? He even wrote a book. Look at this. The Racist Country. He wrote a book in 2018 in response to the outrage among some citizens that Coles would be phasing out the supply of single-use plastic bags. I don't know what that was about. How can anyone stand this woman? I'm a brown Pakistani and I'm telling you, this is not on. These people keep crying about racism. She's our Hamza Yusuf, actually.
The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white, 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 white. Every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white.
So they're dishonest people, but that's not it. She's not the only one. There's another clown that we have. This woman. Have a look at her. Fatma Payman. She's an Afghan refugee as well. She became a senator on Labour's platform, but when she refused to give up on her anti-Semitism, she left the Labour Party, but she didn't resign from the Senate. Dishonest. So she created a political party called Australia's Voice. If I find the photo, I'll show it to you. There wasn't a single Australian, and I don't mean ethnically. I mean not even a single culturally Australian person. And she had the cheek to call it Australia's Voice. This is very similar to Zara Sultana in the UK, your party. It's the same trick. Maybe it's not a trick. Maybe it's the ideological makeup. That's the new left, guys, we have to deal with. So Pauline Hanson going into Parliament in a burqa is not racist. Pauline Hanson trying to get the burqa banned in Australia is not racist. It's not Islamophobia. In fact, she's actually trying to protect Muslim women who are forced to wear a burqa. I know Pauline Hanson's primary concern is probably to preserve Australian values and to maintain Australian identity and not let or allow medieval barbaric practices to be practiced in Australia. That might be her primary concern, but that actually helps Muslim women as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are witnessing another reform 2.0 taking place in the Australian context. Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party, in my opinion, within 12 to 24 months is going to become Australia's biggest political party, and the mainstream political parties like the Australian Labor Party and the Australian Liberal Party, they will become second-tier political parties. The only downside is Australian Greens Party, that Pakistani woman that you saw, Mehreen Faruqi, she is the leader of that political party. They might become the second biggest party. They might become the representative of the left. Funny times we live in. But regardless of that, guys, we have to stay together. Whether you are a patriot in Australia or in Britain or in Canada or in the US or in New Zealand as well. I don't forget my New Zealand brothers, but they're too small, so they're okay. We have to stick together against this onslaught of the Islamist, Marxists, and globalists. So what do you think? Do you think my theory is right? Let me know in the comments below.